All right, this next one's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take this simple brush over here. We'll drag out a plane 3D. Let's go ahead and drag that on our canvas, go into edit mode. And let's say we want to assign a reference image to this plane. And you would do that for a whole slew of reasons, but let's go ahead and, just so we can see this a little bit better, let's change this to like Skin Shader 4. And right now this is just a primitive. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and say, make Polymesh 3D. And if we turn on Polyframe here, you're going to see this is the resolution. Now if we're going to be applying texture to this, you can just go in here. Let's do it. Let's go to Texture, Import. I'm going to go to my desktop here and just bring in a concept image. And now if we go down here to Texture Map, we can go ahead and choose our concept image, and that's going to map it to this plane. Now if we want to, we can go into the gizmo mode and we can scale this thing out. But let's say we wanted to get the exact ratio of our texture applied to this plane. If you go to Polypaint now, and first if you do Polypaint from texture, it's going to be, oops, let's go ahead and turn on MRGB. Let's go ahead and do Polypaint from texture, and it's going to be very low res. If you turn off Polyframe here, you're going to see how low res that is. So let's go ahead and undo that. So before we apply, let's go to the geometry. Let's turn off the smooth modifier so we don't get rounded edges, and we'll just hit divide. And we'll divide this plane up to get a little bit more resolution. And now when we do Polypaint from texture, it's going to apply that Polypaint. It's going to be a beautiful transfer. However, if we undo that, hold down Shift and do Polypaint from texture, that's going to make our polyplane inherit the aspect ratio of our image. So now we know it's perfectly scaled. Of course, if you want to, you can also go up here to texture, do the old select it, flip it vertically, texture off, and then when you reselect this one, it'll go ahead and be oriented correctly, and then we'll hold down Shift, Polypaint from texture, it'll snap your plane to the right dimensions, and now you've got that applied as a polypaint. So if you hold down Shift, you're going to see you can smooth out the RGB, and of course you can paint on it. If you go turn on RGB, grab another color, and now you can just go ahead and polypaint on this all you'd like. But now your polyplane is the right dimensions for whatever imported image you have.